Hey, before we get started, hit like and subscribe if you haven't yet. I'm curious, where are you listening right now? What's the time? Because where you are, at this moment, might just shape how this all unfolds. It's past midnight, and rain is tapping rhythmically against the side window, soft but steady, like a quiet drum beat. Outside, the night is dense, with fog, the kind that blurs the edges of the woods behind this little cabin where you've been staying. The mist hangs low, smothering the trees to ghostly shapes and swallowing every trace of the road that brought you here hours ago. You're sitting close to that side window, the one framed by thick, dark wood stained uneven from years of weather. Your breath fogs up the glass just a little as the cool, wet air sneaks in through the tiny gaps in the old frame. It smells like wet earth and pine needles, with a faint twist of cold stone from the creek nearby. The rain has been coming down longer than you expected, soft at first, then picking up into a steady pattern, light enough to let you hear each individual drop hit the leaves and dirt outside. A subtle shift in the rhythm of the rain catches your attention, a faint tapping, different from the rest, more deliberate. A knock, you think, but soft, like knuckles rapping on wood, rather than the steady patter of raindrops. You freeze, caught between dismissing it as a trick of the weather and letting yourself lean in, straining to listen. The knocking comes again, slow and patient, from the other side of the cabin. Your heartbeat flickers, steady but alert. There are no neighbors close, no footsteps except your own since you arrived. You stand, careful not to clatter anything onto the creaky floorboards. The path to the back door is dim, lit only by the dull glow of a porch light, half shielded by 10 years of grime and rain residue. The smell of damp wood here is stronger, more urgent. You check the locks by touch first, the deadbolt firmly in place, then the latch, the door cold under your fingers. You lean into the peephole, willing your eyes to adjust past the thick fog settled just beyond the thin porch railing. Outside, the rain blurs everything into a smeared charcoal painting. You catch vague movement, faint but unmistakable, a shadow slipping just beyond where the light reaches. Your breath catches. The porch creaks softly under a heavy footstep, and then another, slightly muddier, pressing onto the wooden planks. The sound of water dripping from tall pines beyond adds a slow tempo, a natural percussion to the scene. You force yourself to stay calm, counting seconds between sounds, eyes darting from the latch to the floor to the peephole. The knocking starts again, this time from the side window nearer the kitchen. 3 sharp taps, then a pause. It's not just the rain anymore. You reach slowly for your phone on the countertop, your fingers brushing against the slick surface. No bars. That's right. This patch of the forest is a dead zone for signal. You think about stepping outside, calling out, but a step into the wet night would flood you with cold air and the smell of rain-drenched earth, and maybe something else off in the dark. A gust of wind pushes the fog thicker, and the shadow outside disappears. The tapping stops. Silence rides in, thick and sudden, almost heavier than the storm had been. You stay at the door, hands still on the cold metal latch, feeling the damp seep through your shirt where the window's chill wrapped around your arm. The cabin's inside lights cast long, trembling shadows of your own hands on the wall, a small, human echo in a place otherwise held hostage by the wilderness. Time feels stretched here, between what's possible and what you hope for. You remind yourself this could be anything. A lost hiker, a neighbor's prank, an animal brushing against the siding. Yet the possibility that something more, something watching, lingers like the mist itself, thick and unyielding. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're new here. I'm curious, where and when are you listening to this? Nighttime, maybe? Something about these late hours always sharpens every little sound. It's just past 1 in the morning. The rain patters softly but persistently against the roof, a steady rhythm, like a secret being whispered over and over. You're in this small cabin tucked deep in the woods, the kind of place where the fog rolls in thick and leaves you feeling wrapped in cold, wet silence. The scent of damp wood lingers in the air. Old pine floors and the faint, earthy undertones of moss creeping under the porch. You're standing at the bottom of the narrow stairwell leading down to the basement. The air feels cooler here, heavier somehow, mixed with a hint of something you can't quite place. Wet stone? Or maybe the mustiness of time sitting still. Your fingers graze the rough wooden banister as you step carefully, each footfall muffled by the thick-knit rug stretched along the top steps. You pause at the landing, listening. Outside, rain drums a steady tattoo on the windows, the kind that can lull you almost to sleep. But something beneath that soothing noise pulls at your nerves, a subtle creak, like the house settling, or maybe the wind shifting just right. You lean your head slightly, trying to catch anything new. For a moment, there's only the rain, a quiet whoosh as it runs down the gutters. The basement door looms before you, a heavy slab of aged wood, painted the same faded green as the cabin siding, with a black iron latch that looks stiff but solid. You reach out and run your hand along the grain, feeling the roughness snag at your fingertips. The air here holds a damp chill, and a whiff of mildew rises as you draw closer. You check the latch with careful patience. It's in place, locked tight. Good. Still, something isn't quite right. You lean closer to the door, tuning your ears. Beneath the rain's constant hum, there's a soft tapping. Not the sound of rain, but something rhythmic, slow, almost deliberate, coming from the other side. A faint scratch, maybe, or the tip of a fingernail trailing lightly along wood. You can't be sure. Your heart thuds a little harder in your chest, steady but alert. The darkness just beyond the door feels like it's pressing out, waiting. You glance back upstairs, where the yellow glow from the kitchen spills warm and inviting through the doorway. The phone lies on the counter. You remember, no signal this far out, no quick way to reach help if it were needed. The rain muffles everything beyond the cabin, swallowing sounds whole before they travel. Even the trees seem to hold their breath. A sudden gust rattles the window panes above you, shaking loose a fresh patter of rain droplets that tap against the sill like tiny footsteps. The tapping at the basement door stops. Silence falls hard, heavy enough to hear your own breathing, slow and controlled. You press your palm flat against the cold wood, sensing the quiet pulse of movement behind it, or maybe just the house itself settling deeper into the earth. You think about opening it, about reaching for the latch, ready to flip it open and cross the threshold. But something holds you, maybe caution, maybe respect for the unknown spaces beneath the safety of the floorboards. The rain's whisper becomes a faint promise, almost comforting. Still, the question lingers. What if the sounds aren't just the house? What if in the quiet dark, there is something waiting or watching? And if so, does it need you to notice? You step away slowly, the floor creaking beneath your feet. Upstairs, the warm light pulls you back, but your mind stays with that closed door, locked and silent, a waiting whisper behind it. Sometimes you realize it's not the fear of what's there, but the waiting itself that stays with you long after the rain stops. Before we begin, if this is your first time here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. I'm curious, where are you listening from? What's the time on your clock? Because moments like these feel different depending on where and when they unfold. It's past midnight, deep in the woods, and rain taps softly against the side window. Faint but steady, like a whispered reminder of the night outside. You're settled in the living room of a small, isolated cabin, the warmth from the wood stove wrapping gently around you. The scent of burning pine drifts through the air, blending with the dampness creeping in through the aged window frames. Your fingers rest on the arm of the chair, feeling the subtle vibration of the fire's crackle. Outside, the steady rain drapes everything in a cloak of quiet. Then, there's a knock, slow, deliberate, not harsh or impatient, but measured, almost hesitant. It's coming from the back door. You freeze, caught between relief and unease. The solid shuddering of rain has masked all other sounds until now. You listen closely. Another knock, softer this time. Almost a tap-tap. Your heart beats a little faster. The time is 12:17 a.m. You glance at your phone's dim screen, a detail you note instinctively. There's no signal, just a faint glow in the dark room. Your eyes adjust to the shadows, registering the silhouette of the back door's edge. You rise carefully, making your way toward it. The worn wooden floor cools your bare feet with each step, barely making a sound over the rain's steady patter outside. The air inside is thick with the mingled scents of wet earth from small leaks in the frame and the lingering warmth of the stove. You stop just short of the door, hand hovering near the deadbolt. You slow your breathing, steadying your thoughts as your fingers secure the lock firmly. The deadbolt slides home with a quiet click, pressing the door into a barrier against whatever or whoever is outside. You lean forward, eyes narrowing to catch any glimpse through the window's rain-smeared glass. Beyond the glass, the porch is slick with water, the boards dark and glistening, surrounded by thick fog rolling in from the woods. Shapes shift at the edges of visibility, trees bowing against the wind, the fading outline of the gravel path snaking away into darkness. No footprints, no other signs of disturbance. Another silence falls, heavy and thick. The rain drums steadily, filling the space where sound had briefly broken. You step back into the house, the safe glow of the interior wrapping around you again. The lock engaged, the door sealed tight. You breathe out slowly, the tension unwinding in waves across your skin. The knock was real. You heard it. Yet who waits outside in the fog-drenched night, tapping gently at a locked door deep in the wilderness? And when the rain falls relentlessly, masking every whisper, how much can we trust the stillness that follows? Before we get started, if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Now, where are you listening from? What time is it? Because the way a night unfolds depends on the place and the hour. It's a little past midnight where you are, the rain pattering softly against the windowsill, steady like an unspoken rhythm threading through the darkness outside. You're sitting by the back window of this small cabin, tucked into remote woods, where the fog smothers every edge beyond the porch. The air smells of wet pine and damp earth, thick with moisture that clings to your skin and seeps through the thin cotton of your shirt sleeves. Through the glass, the world is blurred, unsure as the drip of water down the window pane, the occasional ripple as raindrops chase each other in lazy rivulets. Then your eyes catch it, movement beyond the clearing, a vehicle pulling into the gravel driveway. No headlights, just the low growl of a van's engine cutting through the rain's chorus. It settles quietly near the edge of the property, where the porch lights glow, and your eyes reach just barely. You press closer to the glass, fingers icy from the cold, pressed against the wet frame. The van sits silent and dark, a hulking silhouette fading at the edges into the wet blackness. No windows gleam back, no hint of interior light. It feels like it's waiting. You feel the hair on your neck rise, a sudden sharpness that cuts through the warm cocoon of the cabin. Hand moves to the door lock, checking the deadbolt, sliding it closed with a confident click. The handle is tight, no give. You ease back from the door, and the rhythm of the rain returns, a soft, steady pulse masking your own breath. Your phone's screen glows in your hand. No signal, as usual, out here in the wild. No way to call for help except to wait and listen beneath the steady rainstorm. The hush of the night is thick now, thick enough to swallow sound, thick enough to make you question if the van's there at all. From somewhere in the woods, a branch snaps, a quick, sharp sound that echoes like a gunshot in the rain. You hold your breath, count the seconds before the rain floods back in. No footsteps cross the porch, no knock at the door. The van remains still, a black shape swallowed completely by fog and night. You think about how many stories begin just like this: rain, road, shadow, a place that seems safe but suddenly isn't. The tension isn't in sight or sound, but in the waiting, the not knowing. And so you ask yourself, what does it mean when something watches from the dark without light? Who is truly in control, the watcher or the one watching back through the wet glass, heart on edge, waiting for whatever might come next? Before we settle in, if you're new to this, take a moment now to hit like and subscribe. Also, where are you listening from tonight? What time is it? Because every room, every hour, changes what waiting in the dark feels like. It's just after 1 in the morning. Outside, rain taps a steady rhythm against the cracked kitchen window, soft and persistent, like a quiet heartbeat drumming through the night. You move toward the back door, the wooden floor cool beneath bare feet. The scent of wet earth and pine drifts in through a slight gap in the frame, hanging thick in the chilled air. Your hand brushes a nearby table, steadying yourself with the smooth grain of the wood before you reach for the light switch and flood the porch with dull yellow glow. Beyond the door, the gravel driveway is slick with rain, the stones dark and shining under the porch light's wet sheen. You step outside, and the cold rushes straight through your socks. Your breath clouds the air in misty bursts as you scan the yard. At first, everything is just wet and still, but then your eyes catch it. A set of footprints leading from the edge of the woods to the porch steps. Deep, muddy impressions pressed into the gravel, scattered with fallen leaves and pine needles. The telltale marks of heavy boots, recent enough that the rain hasn't yet wiped them clean. You crouch low to examine them, noticing the way the edges of the prints glisten with fresh moisture. The soft echo of raindrops splashing into puddles around you mixes with the distant roll of thunder, slow and low. The forest presses in close, branches bowed heavy with rain. Fog drifting between trunks like slow breaths. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of wet wood and damp moss, thick and earthy. You hear it then, a faint crunching off to your right, where the wood's edge blurs into shadows. Your heart echoes beneath the steady rain, calm but alert. No lights flicker along the gravel road, and no sound breaks the downpour except your steady breathing and the patter of rain on leaves. Slowly, you rise, brushing cold dampness from your knees. Your fingers trace the curve of the back door handle, checking the lock one more time. The deadbolt slides firmly into place with a satisfying click. Inside, the warm glow of the cabin promises safety. The hum of the heater. The soft pulse of digital clocks glowing in the dark rooms. Still, those footprints remain etched where earth meets stone, the silent markers of someone's passing in a place where no one is supposed to be. You wonder about the stories printed in mud like this. Paths taken, choices made in the rain, unaware of watching eyes or waiting ears. In the damp quiet that follows, beneath the steady rhythm of rain, a question settles quietly in your mind. When footprints appear without footsteps, how long do they linger before vanishing completely? And who, or what, follows behind? If this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. I wonder, where are you listening from? And what time is it? because those details color everything about a night like this. It's just past 2 in the morning. Rain sliding steadily down the edges of the window pane, tracing cold trails as it falls. Outside, the damp air feels thick, heavy, with a mixture of wet pine needles and moss growing deep in the forest beyond the clearing. You find yourself near the kitchen door, the one that faces the neighbor's yard. A faint spill of yellow porch light cutting through the mist. Your fingers curl around the doorknob, feeling the subtle chill of rain seeping into the frame's cracks. The cabin is quiet except for the steady pattering of rain and the occasional sigh of wind weaving through the trees. The glow inside feels fragile, a small island of warmth in the endless gray. Slowly, you push the door open just a crack, enough to peer out without letting the night inside. The porch steps glisten dark and slick under the dampened light. Beyond them, the yard stretches, mottled with pools of rainwater and faint shadows where bushes bow beneath the weight of the storm. The neighbor's house sits farther away, its own window dim, almost lifeless in this cool cascade. You strain your ears, listening not just for signs of life, but for the subtle disturbances that don't belong. Steps in mud, the rustle of cloth, even whispers. And then you hear it, a whisper, soft, almost breath-like, carried faintly by the rain and drifting across the gap between the 2 yards. You stand motionless, heart sinking with the steady drizzle. The sound is a careful spiral of sound, low enough to be missed if you weren't paying such close attention. Not quite a word, more a quiet sigh, or maybe a murmur, tangled with the evening's own breath. You glance back inside. The locks on the doors are all secure, you remind yourself, one by one, with deliberate fingers. You check the phone. The screen glows faintly, no bars, and the digital clock confirms the time, 2:18 a.m. None of the neighbors are close enough for unexpected visitors, certainly not this late. Rain falls harder now, muffling everything but the whisper, which seems to linger just beyond the veil of sound. A stray branch taps against the porch rail, sharp and deliberate. Your skin prickles, a cold line tracing down your spine. The whisper remains, or perhaps it lingers in the quiet left by the shifting storm. You wonder if it was meant for you, or if it is simply the woods speaking in sound too soft for most to catch. You breathe deep, feeling the wet night settle in around your senses, and the fragile safety of walls and locks. Sometimes you realize the most unsettling sounds are the ones that never quite become voices, the murmurs that brush past ears like a forgotten secret. And so you ask yourself, in the silence filled with whispers, who is really calling out, and who is just listening back? Before we begin, if this is your first time here, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Because nights like these, the quiet hours wrapped in rain and shadow, feel different depending on where you are. It's just past 2 in the morning. Rain brushes steadily against the side window, soft and unrelenting, a subtle chorus in the dark. You're sitting in the small living room of a cabin, deep in the wilderness. The wood stove radiates warmth, the cozy flicker balancing the damp chill creeping in through the cracked window frame. The air smells of wet cedar and resin, thick with the scent of soil soaking up the rain. Your fingers trail along the rough grain of the armrest as your eyes trace the dim edges of the room, shadows folding into the corners. Suddenly, the telephone on the small table beside you rings, sharp, insistent, a sound surprisingly loud against the night's rhythm. You startle, heart tightening for a moment before settling into cautious curiosity. The clock on the wall glows 2:03 a.m., the kind of time when unexpected calls set every nerve on alert. You reach for the phone slowly, fingers grazing its cold plastic surface. The line clicks as you lift it, the soft buzz vibrating through the receiver before the sudden silence that leaves your ears focusing on the subtle background sounds. The rain tapping, the wind sighing softly through the trees, the muted creak of the cabin settling. There's no voice at the other end, only the faintest whisper of static, and a breath of sound so quiet you aren't sure if it's real or your mind reaching into the dark for something tangible. A pause stretches, nearly unbearable, before the line goes dead. A soft pop echoing into silence. Your grip tightens. You glance out the window, the rain shimmering under the weak porch light, blurring everything into indistinct shapes and shadows. The phone silently rests against your cheek, cool and lifeless, as the quiet swells back around you, thick and expectant. You check your phone in the kitchen. No signal, no missed calls, nothing to explain the sudden interruption of your night. The woods beyond the cabin breathe with rain, dense and full of unseen movement. Every detail, the wet earth smell, the distant drip of water from leaves, your steady breath, feels sharpened in the stillness. You find yourself wondering, in a place so isolated, where sound and silence chase each other through the dark, what does it mean when the phone rings at 2 a.m.? Is it a question meant to be answered, or a whisper meant only to be heard? And in that waiting, who is the one truly listening? If this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from? And what time is it? Because the air in these moments folds differently, depending on place and hour. It's just past 3 in the morning, and rain seeps steadily against the cabin window, a soft, persistent drum that pulls you closer into the quiet dark. You're near the front door, a patch of warm light behind you pooling on the wooden floorboards. The smell of damp wood and old pine coils in the air, thick with the scent of wet earth from outside. Your fingers brush against the cool glass as you peer out, watching the mist swirl low over the grass, the outline of the forest blurred and hesitant beyond the yard. Then, faintly you hear it. Music. Not the gusting wind, not the rain, but a soft melody threading its way through the humid night. It drifts from the old schoolyard, just beyond the property line, faint and fragile, like a distant player's notes caught between raindrops. The tune is old, simple, a lullaby maybe, or something a child might hum, barely more than a whisper against the dark. Your breath steadies as you strain to listen, the music weaving in and out with the pattering rain. You can't tell if it's from here now or somewhere farther, shifting with the fog's slow embrace. Your skin feels cooler along the spine as the sound hangs between moments, too clear and too soft to ignore. You close the door behind you with care and check the locks. Deadbolt secure, handle tight. The cabin's warmth lingers around you, but the night presses in with its damp weight. You pull your sleeves down as the chill reaches in past the threshold, mingling with the slow echo of the song. The digital clock elsewhere hums softly, a steady presence in the dark. The rain rises, a faint crescendo of droplets falling faster, washing the sound of the music away like a forgotten memory. Your eyes return to the window, to the blurred shapes where light and shadow dissolve. No signs of movement outside, except the steady fall of rain and a lone branch swaying against the wind. You wonder about the music's source, if it's a trick of your mind, the creaking woods playing notes only you can hear, or something else whispering in the spaces between the raindrops and the night. The song feels like a message wrapped in mist, delicate and elusive. And so you ask yourself, in the quiet hours when the world seems paused beneath rain and fog, what stories linger in the forgotten melodies that slip through the dark? Who plays when no one else is watching? Before we dive in, if this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from tonight, and what time is it? Because those details always shape how a night like this settles in. It's well past midnight now. Outside, rain taps steadily against the side window, a slow, rhythmic patter that threads through the shadows stacked against the little cabin. The air smells cold and damp, a mingling of wet pine and earthy decay that slips under the door's worn edges. You're standing at the edge of the hallway, just inside the cabin's heart, the narrow passage between living room and bedrooms. The wooden floorboards are cool beneath your bare feet, slightly slick with the humidity trapped in the house. A faint breath of chill curls along your skin, brushing the back of your neck like a whispered warning. You turn slowly toward the soft dark at the hall's far end, where the shadows pool beneath closed doors. There's a faint sound, almost too subtle to catch. A quick intake of breath, shallow and cold, drifting out from somewhere beyond the last door on the right. The house is otherwise quiet, except for the rain sliding in sheets down the windows and the occasional creak of wood settling into the night's chill. You swallow hard, feeling the hairs on your forearm lift, and you realize the air here tastes different. Sharp, colder, touched with a hint of frost you didn't expect. Your footsteps are careful, nearly invisible, as you move forward, each step timed with the slow heartbeat of the storm outside. You reach the door and pause, hand hovering just above the knob. The faint breath comes again, like a secret, exhaled with care, too soft to be words, yet undeniably present. You press your palm gently against the wood. It's cool, solid. You check the door's lock. The deadbolt has been slid firmly into place. Security feels thin here, fragile against something unseen pressing close. A deeper silence falls then, folding around you like a blanket pulled too tight, still but full of waiting. The rain's rhythm shifts, picking up as distant thunder rolls low and slow beyond the trees. You pull back slightly, study the dim hallway beyond and the flickering amber glow of the porch light bleeding in through curtained windows. Your breath catches once more as a faint coolness brushes past you. It isn't the draft, not the rain slipping in. It's something colder, an unseen breath mingling with your own. You wonder how many times the body reads warning signs no eyes can see, how often the mind hears whispers lost in the dark. The night is wide, and even safe walls can hold secrets that linger long after footsteps fade. And in the quiet press of that cold breath, you ask yourself, when the dark breathes close behind the locked door, who is waiting? And who is watching you wait? If this is your first time listening, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you right now? And what time is it? Because the mood of a night like this shifts, depending on where you are. It's nearing 3 in the morning. The rain falls steadily, a soft, endless tapping against the cabin's weathered siding. Outside, the dense woods blend into fog, the trees barely silhouettes against the darkened sky. You find yourself by the back porch, the floorboards cool beneath your bare feet, despite the warmth radiating from the cabin's yellow light spilling out behind you. The air is heavy and wet, filled with the unmistakable scent of pine and damp earth. Your hand brushes the rough wood of the doorframe as you step quietly forward. The faint odor of wet leaves lingers in the stillness. Every sound feels magnified. The rain's constant patter, the occasional creak of aging wood, the distant call of a lonely bird somewhere deep in the forest. Your eyes fix on the porch light above the door. It flickers, uneven and uncertain, casting shifting shadows that dance across the walls. The glow dips low as if struggling to hold itself together, then bursts into brief brightness again. Each flicker sends a pulse through the quiet night, a heartbeat syncing with the storm's rhythm. You reach up, pressing the switch firmly. The light snaps off, then comes back on with the same staggering flicker. It's an old fixture, you think, worn by seasons and storms, but tonight it feels more fragile, like it's holding secrets in its hesitation. The rain hammers harder, drumming steady against the porch roof, mixing with the occasional rumble of distant thunder, a slow, rolling growl that vibrates beneath your feet. You lean against the doorframe, feeling the cold seep through your shirt onto your skin, a reminder that this place is still very much part of the wilderness pressing close. The wet porch is slick, and the shadows writhe with fog, softening every edge into something uncertain. Beyond the yard you see nothing but the blurred silhouette of trees and the faint glow of the sky turning slowly toward dawn. The silence deepens as the light flickers again. Once, twice, before it steadies, glowing faint but unwavering. You trace the worn wood with your fingers, the texture rough and weathered, familiar but distant tonight. Inside, the heater hums low and steady. The clock ticks in soft pulses. The phone screen glows dark and silent. No signal to be found this far out. You inhale the night air, chilled and thick, and you wonder about the moments that ask you to wait, those pauses in the quiet, where something unseen lingers, hovering just out of reach. How often does hesitation reveal more than certainty? How many stories hide in the fragile flicker of an old porch light, waiting for someone to witness the subtle breath between glow and dark? And so you ask yourself, in the calm, folded between each blink of light, who else might be watching, waiting in the quiet shadows just beyond the fog? If this is your first time here, please take a moment to like and subscribe. And where are you listening from? What time is it? Because nights like this unfold differently depending on where you are, how distant from the hum of the world. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and outside the coffee shop window, the rain falls steady and soft, blurring the neon glow of the sign into a haloed haze. The air smells cool and wet, a blend of spilled espresso, damp pavement, and the pine that fringes the nearby road. You're inside this small town's last haven before sleeping hours fully settle, huddled at a corner table beneath a dim half-light. The room smells of fresh coffee and worn leather, mingling with the faint mustiness only a place open late through endless nights can gather. An oldness that's comforting in its own stubborn way. Your fingers curl around the ceramic mug, warmth seeping into your skin, grounding you amid the confined quiet. The rain thrums a rhythm on the storefront glass, a lulling cadence layered with faint, distant thunder rolling just beyond the horizon. Through the window, the empty street stretches out, slick with water, reflecting flickers of orange street lamps, and the occasional glint of passing headlights swallowed quickly by the fog. The town feels paused, as if holding its breath between sleeping and waking. Shadows lean against shuttered shops, time dilating in the mist. Beyond the last lamppost, the woods press close, trees dark and silent, holding the secrets of the night. The coffee shop's bell tinkles faintly as the door opens and closes, but you don't turn. Footsteps move past your corner, quiet on the tiled floor. The air thickens with something unspoken, an expectancy held in the spaces between rain and silence. The steam from your cup curls, twisting slowly into the stillness, a fragile ghost melting into the loom of shadows. Your phone hums softly beside you, a pale screen offering the time, 3 past 3, but no signal. The ancient forest edges hold you captive now, not by walls or wires, but by distance and the thick fog folding over everything. You swallow and taste the bittersweet tang of the coffee, feeling the warmth chase the chill that clings like a second skin. Outside, the rain shifts, picking up its pace, rattling the awning and chasing through gutters. Somewhere under that wash of sound, you believe you hear whispers, soft, indistinct, woven into the night and water, struggling to find meaning beyond human reach. Your breath catches, mingling with the cold mist pressing against the glass. You wonder how many stories have started, paused, or ended in places like this. At the edges of towns, fingers stretch toward the vast unknown. How many lives, tangled with rain and fog, have waited here for answers that never arrived? And in that waiting, you feel the weight of time folding in on itself, the strange companionship of loneliness that can both haunt and hold. The night lingers around you like a question without an answer, And you ask yourself, what truths are whispered in the raindrops beyond the light? And who listens when no one is left to answer? If this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it? Because the night around you colors every detail, every shadow, every whispered sound. It's just past 4 in the morning. Outside, the rain taps in steady raindrops against the window panes, soft and persistent, turning the world to wet shadows and mist. You're standing near the back door of the cabin, the floor beneath your bare feet cool and slightly slick where the humidity settles. The smell of damp wood and pine envelopes the air, sharp and clear in the stillness. Your fingers brush the chipped doorframe, tracing its familiar roughness, steadying yourself as you peer out into the gray of the early morning. The porch light casts a pale yellow glow, flickering faintly in the evening fog that eases in soft folds over the yard. Your eyes catch a shape, a dark lump discarded beside the railing, half hidden by fallen leaves, slick with rain. As you move closer, the chill in the air deepens, and the unmistakable scent of wet fabric rises, mingled with the sharp tang of rain-soaked earth. It's a jacket, forgotten or left behind. The material is heavy and damp, the collar sticking up like a dark shadow against the slick wood beneath it. You crouch, brushing aside a few leaves, and fingers shake slightly as you lift the jacket. The wet fabric clings coldly, cool against your skin. You fold it carefully, hearing the whisper of rain in the nearby trees, the distant murmur of a creek swollen with the storm's excess. The stillness feels dense, almost expectant, as if the jacket carries more than mere moisture, invisible weight pressing into the quiet. There's no sign of where it came from, no footprints disturbed in the soaked gravel, no dropped bag or hurried steps leading to or from the spot. The fog rolls thicker, swallowing the edges of the yard in its damp embrace. You glance back to the door, fingers steadying the lock and deadbolt. Snap, click, sealing the boundary tight once more. Rain drums harder now, the tempo quickening, drumming a steady beat against the porch roof. The warm glow of the cabin draws you back, light spilling softly onto the worn floorboards inside, the faint hum of the heater settling around you. The digital clock by the stove glows 4:12 a.m., its steady pulse somewhere between comfort and caution. You fold the jacket slowly, the fabric slipping through your fingers, heavy with unknown stories. It feels like a message left in the rain, a whisper just beyond sight, something waiting to be found, or to find you. In moments like this, when the night presses close, and the air carries secrets, you realize how much we carry of the past, even when we think we've left nothing behind. And as the rain hums against the window, you wonder, if a forgotten thing can linger so long in the quiet dark, waiting for its owner or simply to be seen, what else hides just beyond the light? How many stories go untold, folded into fabric, vanishing in the mist? Hey, before we dive in, if you're here for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'm curious, where are you listening right now? What's the time on your clock? Because the hour and place always shape how these moments settle in. It's just after 2 in the morning, and rain taps a quiet rhythm against the bathroom window down the hall. The cabin feels small tonight, like it's holding its breath between the storm's pulses. You're standing just outside the bathroom door, the air cool and thick with moisture that clings to your skin and curls softly in your breath. The faint scent of pine logs burning downstairs mixes with something sharper, a trace of damp fabric maybe, or the wood's own restless humidity after days of rain. Your bare feet press lightly on the warped floorboards, which creak quietly as you shift your weight. The lights in the bathroom are off, but the hall's dim glow catches the edges of the door frame, casting long shadows along the narrow corridor. Behind you, the kitchen clock ticks steadily, Its sound seems louder when the storm's momentary silence stretches between heavy raindrops. You listen. The rain is steady enough to blur any distant noises, but not so loud as to drown out the smaller sounds inside. A soft scuff from the bathroom, barely audible, pulls your focus. Maybe nothing, but your ears sharpen because that's how your body works here. Awake, alert, balanced between calm and unease. Another soft scrape, like a foot sliding across tile. Then a pause. Then footsteps, deliberate, slow, shift from the bathroom doorway and glide down the hall toward your room. Not clumsy, not rushed, just quiet and measured. You hold your breath, counting the steps, their tone changing against the wood floor. They're light, but heavier than your own. You press your back gently against the wall, feeling the cool plaster even through your shirt. The footsteps pause near the closet door, just past your room, hesitating, almost a heartbeat longer than seems natural. Then, a subtle scrape, maybe a finger running along the wood's edge, or a nail tracing the grain. Your fingers curl instinctively around your phone in your pocket. You flick it on. Screen light glares pale in the dim hall. No service. That's what you expected, being this deep in the wilderness. No quick call for help here. You consider stepping away, retreating to the kitchen where the windows show the slick night outside. Empty, washed clean by rain, but something roots you in place. Another soft tap. This time at the bathroom door. 3 gentle knocks, slow enough to be deliberate, too quiet for rain. You know the difference. Silence makes the air heavy again, almost pressing in. Then the rain picks up, hammering the roof in sharp bursts, drowning the night's whispers for a moment. Your heart beats steady but fast, stepping in rhythm with the storm. You're safe here, pinned between walls of warm wood and thick glass, your locks secure. Still, the space beyond the bathroom door feels wide and open, as if it breathes on its own. The storm wraps around the house, a constant pulse outside, but inside, the darkness holds its secrets tight. You think about how every sound, every shadow plays tricks in places like this, how your mind stretches to fill silence with shapes and stories. But sometimes, it's not just the brain weaving patterns in the dark. Sometimes, it's something else listening back. You step back slowly, fingertips brushing the wall as the rain softens again. The hallway feels empty now, but you wonder, when footsteps fade like this, do they really disappear? Or do they linger in the spaces between the walls, waiting for someone still awake enough to hear? If this is your first time here, take a moment now to like and subscribe. I'm curious, where are you listening from? What's the time on your clock? Because nights like this, the world feels different depending on where and when you hear it. It's well past midnight. Rain taps steadily against the window panes, a soft, insistent rhythm that pulls you deeper into the quiet. You're sitting close to the side window of a remote cabin, the kind of place where isolation feels palpable, and the forest presses in like a dark, breathing thing. The air clings heavy with wet pine and earth, a scent so alive it feels almost tangible. You reach out and touch the cold glass, tracing the tiny rivers of water that trickle down, weaving paths in the fog. The room is dim, warmed by the amber glow of a single lamp. Its light reaches just enough to chase away the deepest shadows, but not enough to banish the feeling of something hovering beyond the edges. The rain's murmur fills the background, a soft, steady percussion on roof and leaves. A sudden creak slices through the ordinary soundscape, the sharp groan of old wood near the back door. You freeze, breath catching, senses sharpening like a tightrope stretched thin. Outside, the storm rolls on, distant thunder grumbling low and slow like a muted warning. You rise, careful not to disturb the fragile calm. Fingertips brush over the worn tabletop as you move toward the hallway leading to the door. The wooden floor feels slick underfoot, the dampness from outside creeping in through tiny gaps in the frame. You reach the door frame and run your hand along the edge, feeling the cold seep into your skin. Checking the locks becomes a ritual. Deadbolt slides into place with a firm click. The latch pops secure. Chain clasps fast. You press your eye to the peephole, watching past the rain-streaked glass into the blurry world outside. The porch is slick and shining, puddles pooling across the boards. Trees hum softly in the rain, their branches bowed but silent now. No footprints or movement, only the storm's pulse. The house sighs behind you, timber settling deeper into the earth. Lightning flickers far off, casting brief flickers of white across the fog, then fading back into darkness. In the stillness, your mind stretches, trying to grasp the taut thread between sound and silence, presence and absence. The rain's steady embrace presses closer, a quiet reminder of the wilderness beyond walls. You realize how much the night holds in its pauses, the space between knocks, between footsteps, between breaths. It is there, in that fragile liminal place, that the most profound unease grows. And so you wonder, settled by window and rain. When the night listens as closely as you do, who whispers back? If this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from and what time is it now? Because the way the night wraps around you changes everything. It's past midnight, and rain taps softly against the kitchen window, slick as glass with the steady fall. The world outside is blurred, the edges softened by mist and the glow of a distant porch light shimmering dimly through the fog. You step into the kitchen, the worn wooden floor cool beneath your bare feet. There's a faint smell of damp earth carried inside, heavy with pine and wet stone, lingering beneath the smell of brewed coffee left out on the counter. The room feels quiet, settled around the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional drip from the faucet. You move toward the table at the center, the one with scratches and stains, a trusted witness to countless late-night meals and whispered worries. As you approach, the hairs on your arms rise, not from the cold, though the chill clings to your skin, but something else, a lingering presence. The chair at the head of the table is pulled out just enough, as if someone had been sitting there recently, or might return at any moment. You reach out, fingertips grazing the wood's rough grain, feeling the lingering warmth from hands that aren't yours. The rain outside picks up, drumming faster against the panes, a rhythm that threads through the silence. Somewhere in the far room, a floorboard creaks softly, quick and deliberate, then stops. Your breath catches. You remind yourself to breathe slowly, counting steady, measured breaths to anchor the rising tension. You check the locks on the back door before moving back to the table. Deadbolt solid, handle locked tight. No sign of forced entry or disturbance. The house is otherwise still, but the weight of possibility presses in, thick and unyielding. The familiar smells, the worn textures, the home's quiet warmth. It all feels fragile tonight. Your eyes linger on the empty chair, the air around it cool and still. It feels like something was nearly here, or almost at the threshold. And maybe still is. A shadow pulled taut between moments. You wonder about the spaces in between. The breath of a person no longer present, or waiting just out of sight. Rain hums steady, pattering a soft song against the dark window. And as the night stretches on, you ask yourself, in a house full of memories and silence, how often do we truly sit alone? Who else shares the waiting, the watching, beyond what the eye can see? Before we begin, if you're new here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you listening from right now? And what time is it? Because the way a night feels, depends so much on where you are, the quiet around you, the chill in the air. It's just past midnight. Rain drips and patters against the side window, soft and steady, folding the night into a damp, whispered darkness. You find yourself moving toward the back gate, the narrow path between cabin and forest, edged with slick leaves and soaked earth. Your boots press into the muddy gravel with each careful step, sending tiny splashes whispering outward. The air is thick with the scent of rain on pine needles and wet moss, cold enough to make the hairs on your forearms bristle. Under the porch light, the wooden gate looms familiar but shadowed, rings of rust around the hinges, and a latch that looks as old as the trees watching from the edge of the yard. You reach for the latch, fingers cold against the metal, rough and damp with moisture. Your hand pauses. The latch feels tight, locked or latched. You can't quite tell. You test it slowly, pushing and pulling it with deliberate patience. It resists at first, then gives with a soft click, and a faint creak that echoes deeper than you expect in the heavy silence. Beyond the gate, the yard dissolves into the fog, shapes muted and shifting in twilight grays. The forest waits just past, dense and silent, holding its breath beneath the rain. Somewhere a branch brushes softly against a trunk, a quiet, deliberate sound that almost merges with the steady rain. Your pulse picks up. You take a breath. The sharp scent of wet bark and earth fills your lungs, a grounding reminder you're here, awake, alive. You reach for the chain, locking the gate, tracing the cold links between your fingers. Each one feels heavy, a tangible barrier against the unknown, pressing just outside the circle of light. You glance back toward the house. The warm glow from the kitchen window spills onto the porch steps, a small haven of modern comfort. Inside, the heater hums steady, and the clock glows 12:09 a.m., its light cutting through the shadow like a promise. The phone lies just beyond the door, but you remember, there's no signal here, that thin line between connection and isolation. You look back through the gate again, the fog swirling higher, the rain intensifying. Sounds soften. The moment folds tight, filled with everything and nothing. The gate stands locked, a mute sentinel at the edge of your world. You wonder about the threshold between safety and uncertainty, the weight of locks and the spaces they divide. When the darkness presses just beyond the gate, what waits silent in the fogginess of watching? And when we secure the barriers against it, do we ever truly know what we keep out or what we keep in? If this is your first time listening, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you right now? And what time is it? Because the night feels different depending on where you are and how late it is. It's past midnight. Rain taps steadily against the side window, a soft, constant rhythm that threads through the quiet house. You're standing at the foot of the attic stairs, the air cool and damp against your skin, heavy with the scent of old wood and the faint trace of forgotten things. The cabin feels smaller here, the low ceiling folding the space into tight corners shadowed by slanted beams. Your fingers brush the railing, rough and worn, grounding you as your steps press lightly against the wooden boards. The house is silent except for the rain singing outside, steady, insistent, blending with the creak of the floor beneath your feet. You pause halfway up, listening. Something shifts above, a faint scuffle, the whisper of movement. Your breath catches. The sound is too soft to be anything firm, more like the shuffle of restless fabric or the careful step of something hesitating in the dark. You reach the top and halt, eyes adjusting. The attic window is cracked open just enough to let the moist cold weave inside, carrying with it the sharp, crisp scent of pine and earth. The moon struggles behind clouds, casting patches of pale light that pool in uneven patterns across the scattered boxes and old furniture. Shadows twist unnervingly in the corners, and you feel the weight of the space pressing in. A sudden tap, the sharp double knock of a shoe on a loose board. You startle, heart picking up but steady. Your fingers tighten around the small flashlight in your pocket. The beam cuts narrow and trembling across the piles of forgotten items, revealing broken picture frames, dusty tarps, and the faint outline of a rocking chair that sways imperceptibly. You take a cautious step forward. Floorboards moan beneath your weight. The attic holds secrets in its silence, things left behind, memories pressed under years of dust and shadow. Your hand brushes against a thick layer of grime settled on a wooden crate. The smell rises, a mix of mildew and something sharper, faintly metallic. Another step, then silence. The rain's steady drumming takes over, filling the space around you. You find yourself wondering whether the sounds were made by anything at all, not just in the house, but in your mind, where fear and imagination entwine in shadows. You think of the thin veil between what's seen and unseen in places like this. How often do we mistake absence for presence, and sometimes presence for absence? You take a deep breath, the cold air filling your lungs, bracing for whatever might emerge from the quiet. And so the question settles with the dripping rain. In the dim light of forgotten corners, what footsteps belong to memory, and which ones belong to something still walking? Before we begin, if you're new here, take a moment to like and subscribe. Where are you right now? What time is it? Because nights like this, where rain and fog mingle with empty roads, demand a certain quiet attention. It's past midnight, and rain taps rhythmically against the side window beside you, a low and steady sound, layered with the faint hum of distant thunder rolling between the hills. You step outside onto the porch, the wood cold and slick beneath your bare feet. The scent of wet earth and pine needles hangs heavy, almost comforting, yet the damp air bites at your skin with a chill that isn't just from weather. You pull your jacket tighter around you as you look down the narrow back road, a ribbon of gravel disappearing into thick fog and shadowed trees. The night is thick with moisture, and a silence that feels almost too complete, as if waiting. Your boots crunch quietly on the soaked gravel as you move closer to the edge where the porch light slow fades against the dark. A faint flicker of movement catches your eye, a shadow slipping between the trees, barely more than a blur, but unmistakably there. You pause, breath steady but sharp in your chest, listening to the orchestra of rain, wind, and distant owl calls. The shadow holds, shifting slowly, almost watching, before fading deeper into the mist. Your senses sharpen, picking up the subtle sounds of something moving off the path. Twigs snapping gently, wet leaves rustling. Your fingertips brush the cold metal of the porch railing as you survey the yard, noting the way the rain drains off the eaves with a steady plink. The fence gates remain closed and locked, the latch firm under your touch. You glance back inside. The warm glow through the windows holds a world of safety and routine, where clocks tick softly and the heater hums low. Your phone screen lights up briefly with the time, 12:46 a.m., then goes dark once again. No signal. The isolation is complete. Shadows shift again, nearer now, though the trees keep their secrets well hidden. You consider the tension between here and out there, how the boundary thins under the watchful rain and fog. The world beyond the cabin feels alive in a way the warm interior never could be. Something watches from the blackened woods, perhaps always watching, silent but patient. The rain continues its steady beat, a soundtrack to waiting, to the unknown pressing close. You inhale deeply, the dampness filling your lungs, grounding you in the moment. And you wonder quietly, in all that darkness and shadow, how often do we glimpse the edges of things meant not to be seen? Who or what is truly passing along that road, just beyond the glowing porch light? If this is your first time here, take a moment to like and subscribe. And where are you listening from? What time is it on your clock? Because the night is never quite the same when stories unfold in different places, under different skies. It's late, well past midnight, maybe just shy of 2 in the morning. The rain whispers relentlessly against the side window, a soft tapping rhythm that fills the silence with its steady, gentle insistence. You can smell the wet wood, the damp earth outside pressing close, mingled with the faint scent of pine needles and moss carried in on the cold breeze that slips beneath the window frame. You step towards the back door. The floorboards cool beneath your feet. The air here feels heavier, as if the house itself is holding its breath. A sudden tap, something knocking softly against the aged wood of the porch railing, startles you, heart skipping a beat, but the rain keeps its endless beat beyond, as if nothing has changed at all. Your hand reaches out, fingertips brushing over the familiar, rough surface of the doorframe before grasping the cold metal of the latch. You slide the deadbolt shut, hearing the solid click and the faint creak of the old wood settling into place. Just as you release the latch, your foot catches on something. You glance down and see it. A small, rusted key lying half buried in the mud, glistening wet beneath the porch light's trembling glow. Where it came from, you're not sure. The weeds and fallen leaves are soaked, but the key is oddly dry, as if waiting patiently for you here. Curiosity pulses alongside caution. You bend to pick it up, the cold metal chill tracing a line across your palm. The key feels heavier than it looks, weights you down with an unspoken gravity. You turn it over carefully, fingers slow, noting the stubborn crust of rust at its edges, the faint engraving just barely visible, an indistinct symbol, weathered by time. You pull your coat tighter as a sudden gust sweeps fog through the yard, the moisture clinging thick and cold to your skin. The rain's tempo quickens, hammering the porch roof in sharp bursts, muffling almost everything but the steady dripping from the eaves. You glance toward the back window of the cabin, warm light spilling out unevenly, shadows flickering within, but the house feels further away now, isolated, like an island beyond reach. With the key still in your hand, you edge toward the gate, the wood slick beneath your fingers, where fallen rain has pooled. The gate stands closed, locked since you arrived, but now you wonder, what door might this key fit? What old lock could it open, one forgotten or ignored, waiting patiently alongside the fog and rain? The night around you feels vast, filled with whispered possibility, a place where forgotten relics carry stories, and silence holds secrets deeper than the dark. And as the rain hums its endless song against the wood and glass, you find yourself asking, when something so small holds the weight of so much history, what doors might it unlock in the quiet corners of the night? And once open, what waits beyond? Before we start, if this is your first time here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Where are you listening from tonight? And what time is it? Because nights like these pull at something different inside us, especially when rain blurs the world outside and silence presses close. It's past midnight, and steady rain taps softly against the cabin's side window, a faint drumming that weaves with the stillness. You're near the back door, the wood frame slick from moisture, the damp air thick around you as you push the door open just wide enough to peek outside. The porch light cuts a weak circle through the fog, illuminating slick planks shining under the drizzle. Beyond it, the yard fades quickly into rolling shadows and whispering trees soaked in mist. The scent of wet pine and earth rides on the cold breeze that rushes in, brushing your skin, wrapping you in the damp chill that seeps deep beneath your clothes. You take a slow, steady breath, feeling the cold coil tight in your chest, sharpening your senses, the rustle of leaves, the drip from the eaves, the faint sighs from the forest beyond. Then, something different, an almost unnoticed sound, soft and distant, but unmistakable. Whispers, names carried on the wind, slipping through the fog like a fragile thread of voice. They curl and twist, drifting close, almost catching your ear. Not words you can quite catch, but syllables, half-formed and urgent, like a call folded into the wet darkness. Your heart quickens, but you don't back away. You press your hand onto the cool wood of the door frame. Feel the pulse of the night around you, the rain humming steadily on the roof, the wet earth underfoot. The porch light flickers briefly, and you catch a glimpse of shifting form between the trees, a dark silhouette melting fast into the gray. You check the lock with careful fingers. The deadbolt slides home with a reassuring click. The chain catches taut. The safety is minimal but certain. You glance back at the kitchen window, where soft lamplight spills like a lifeline, warm and steady inside. Outside, the whispers persist, tangled with the rain, dancing just beyond reach. The silence swells again, thick and suffocating, broken only by the rain's endless melody and those murmured names brushing past your thoughts. You wonder about the nature of these whispers. Are they echoes of voices long gone, or something still watching, still waiting in the fog? The night feels alive with secrets, fragile as breath, heavy as the damp air clinging to your skin. And as you close the door and lock it tight, you ask yourself, when the night carries voices no one else can hear, who is calling, and who listens in the shadows behind the back doors? If this is your first time joining, take a moment to like and subscribe. I'm curious, where are you listening from? What time is it on your clock? Because depending on the quiet of your night and the shadows around you, this story feels different. It's late, far past midnight. Rain falls steadily outside the cabin, tracing slow streaks down the foggy windows, the cold droplets tracing paths that blur the world beyond into misty shapes. You're sitting near the back window, the old wood cold beneath your fingertips as you lean closer, trying to pierce the thick veil of fog. The scent of wet earth and pine fills the damp air, a soothing but biting embrace that presses in around the small porch outside the glass. Somewhere deep in the forest beyond the yard, branches creak under the weight of the rain, leaves shiver, and distant water murmurs quietly. Then, movement. A shadow flickers, just barely, at the edge of the fog rolling over the gravel road. Your breath catches as your eyes lock on it, unblinking. The form is tall, slender, but impossible to make out clearly, blurred where light and wetness kiss. It holds still for a heartbeat, just beyond where the porch light's weak glow can reach, then steps soft as falling leaves across the gravel. You rise slowly, heart tightening with a nervous rhythm. The wooden floor creaks beneath your bare feet, a sharp, brittle sound swallowed quickly by the rain's steady pounding. You check the locks on the back door, deadbolt firmly in place, handle secure, chain latched and taut. The familiar click reassures, but the weight of something unseen presses against the walls around you. Your eyes return to the window where the shape continues to move, gliding between the trees, slowing in the mist but never stopping. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the figure falters, flickers, like a candle's flame snuffed out by a breath, and vanishes completely, leaving only the soft echo of wet footsteps mingling with the rain. Silence grows heavy again. You listen. The rain's relentless fall, the distant roll of thunder pacing the dark sky, the whisper of wind tangled in the branches. Inside, the glow of the cabin feels small, fragile, almost too slight against the vast, damp unknown. You breathe deeply, feeling the cold chase the warmth from your skin, an ache as steady as the rain's song. In that moment where presence fades into absence, you wonder, what was it that you saw? Was it something real, or the night conjuring shadows from your own watchful mind? And when shapes vanish into fog like disembodied echoes, who remains to see what is left behind, in the space between the seen and the unseen? Before we begin, if this is your first time here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Where are you right now? What time is it on your clock? Because the landscape of time and place always shapes how these moments unfold. It's just past 2:30 in the morning, and rain is tracing gentle lines down the kitchen window. The cabin, deep in the misty woods, sits wrapped in that quiet, steady drizzle that blurs everything outside into murky gray. You're standing in the dimly lit hallway, the smell of damp wood and faint traces of pine smoke curling in the cool air. Your skin feels the bite of the night's chill, soft but unmistakable under the thin cotton of your shirt. The faded wallpaper peels slightly where the moisture has crept in. An old house, one that remembers every season and storm. The floorboards creak a little underfoot. You breathe slowly, steadying the thrum of nerves that has settled in your chest. From just beyond the door at the end of the hall, the bathroom, a faint murmur drifts. Too soft to be words, more like whispered syllables floating on the humid air. You still. The sound slips under the patter of rain. Barely there, but it's there. Your head tilts, trying to catch meaning in the hushed cadence. The whispers don't rise or fall like a conversation. Instead, they flutter, fleeting and low. You cannot tell how many voices there might be, or what they want. There's a hush to them, as if someone speaks between breaths, careful not to wake the house. You step closer to the closed bathroom door, heart picking up a beat, slower, intentional. Your fingertips graze the aged wood, smooth from years of use, cold despite the warmth inside. Outside, the rain holds steady, a gentle cloak wrapping the night. The cabin's window fogs slightly with your breath, and you notice the pale glow of streetlights far off, blinking dim through the mist. No neighbors for miles, just you and the whispering woods pressing in all around. Your hand drifts down to the doorknob, thumb brushing the cold metal. You hesitate, noting the sturdy lock still engaged. The contrast of modern metal against the worn wood in this isolated place feels strange. Your mind flickers to the phone upstairs, out of service of course, then back to the door. The whispers twist, growing clearer for a moment, then dissolve back into murmur, like water fading from stone. Suddenly, the fleeting sound of footsteps skirts the floor behind you, soft, deliberate, stepping just beyond the hall's end near the kitchen. You don't turn. Instead, you listen harder, the slow drag of shoes on wood, a brief scrape, then silence again. Your breath hangs in the air. The door remains closed. The whispers fade to nothing but the rainfall. You wonder how many times, in this moment, the mind can imagine what it can't see. How often the house holds its own secrets, hidden in hushed voices and closed doors. The rain scratches at the windows, steady and unyielding, a quiet soundtrack to waiting. And you ask yourself, when the night holds whispered conversations in spaces we cannot enter, who really is speaking, and who is listening? Before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're here for the first time, and tell me, where are you listening right now? What time is it? Because these details always shape the way the night settles around you. It's just past 3 in the morning. Outside, the rain falls heavy and cold, drumming against the cabin's windows with a steady, insistent rhythm. The night air carries the sharp scent of damp pine and wet earth, thick enough to taste. You stand at the kitchen window, the glass cold and slick beneath your palm, where the chill has seeped inside. The faucet drips slowly behind you, each plink punctuating the quiet like a metronome. Your breath fogs the pane in slow, misty swirls as the wind shifts outside, dragging the wet fog in restless waves across the yard. The faint hum of the distant forest, shifting leaves, the occasional snap of a twig, feels close, even pressed up against the cabin's sturdy walls. Then, Something else breaks the pattern. A sharp glow slices through the fog, a pair of headlights cutting a slow path down the gravel road that climbs toward the house. They're dim, almost hesitant, as if the driver struggles against the thick curtain of moisture. You watch the light move, slow and uncertain, slipping behind trees and reappearing through shadowed clearings. Your eyes narrow as a low rumble builds after it, the soft thrum of a vehicle's engine muffled beneath the rain's constant patter. The headlights pause near the gate, their beams puddling in the wet road. Your heart ticks up a notch in response, steady and alert. There are no neighbors near enough for such a late visit. No scheduled deliveries or passing traffic out here in the middle of nowhere. You reach for the phone beside you, expecting nothing. No bars again. You toss it back down with a soft clatter against the counter. You draw back from the window, senses sharpening with the cold that runs along your neck. You cross the room, fingers brushing the smooth edge of the back door. The metal latch feels cool beneath your palm. First, you check the deadbolt, solid and secure. The handle is locked tight. Behind the thin glass in the door's small visitor window, the rain runs in delicate rivulets, distorting the view. The headlights remain just outside, washing the fog with pale yellow light. The cabin's warmth hums beneath your skin, a small island of modern comfort in this old wooden shell. The digital clock on the stove reads 3:14 a.m., dispensing reason in its steady red glow. Yet, outside, nothing feels quite settled. The vehicle idles longer, engine's gentle roar softened by the rain and fog. Metallic whispers scratch along the gravel as the driver shifts position, something small tapping against the side of the car. You wonder about the intentions harbored in that quiet light, veiled by mist. If this is a traveler lost, or a neighbor facing trouble, or someone else moving along the edge of your night. The rain's soft, constant fall presses like a heartbeat into the dark around you, steady and indifferent. There's a comfort here, in your locked door and warm walls, but also a quiet question budding in the pause. How much can the fog hide before it becomes something more than just mist? And if there is something waiting in the blurred edges of light and shadow, are you ready to face what it might want? If you're listening here for the first time, take a moment to hit like and subscribe. I'm curious, where are you right now? And what time is it? Because where you are shapes everything you hear tonight. It's just past 4 in the morning, and outside the cabin, the rain falls steadily, soft but insistent, tapping against the back window like countless tiny fingertips. The air smells thick with wet wood and the salt-tinged earth that clings to the forest floor, a smell that wraps around you, cold and close. You stand near the kitchen, the glow from the overhead light washing warm and steady over the counters. Your hand brushes a smooth ceramic mug, slightly warm from the tea you just poured. The steam drifts lazily into the air, mixing with the faint chill that sneaks in through the cracked kitchen window. The house creaks in the way old cabins do, the slow stretch of timber settling into the night. Outside, the rain hums a constant rhythm, the soundtrack of this quiet solitude. Your eyes catch the back door in the corner, the one with its chipped paint and weathered frame. It's supposed to be locked, but the memory of something unsettled makes you want to check. You cross the room quietly, feet dragging softly over the worn rug. The door is cool under your fingers, the wood slightly swollen from moisture. You place a hand on the door jamb, feeling the faint tremor of the house's breath beneath, a low hum of something moving in the marrow of the building. You reach for the deadbolt first. It slides solidly into place with a satisfying click. Next, the handle, locked tight. You pause, pressing your forehead gently against the cool window inset. Outside, the porch railing is slick with rain, the boards dark and shining with water. You peer into the fog that clings low and dense, swallowing the tree line whole. There's a sound, a faint shuffling just beyond the porch steps, a soft scrape against dry leaves or maybe the gravel path. It could be nothing. It could be everything. You step back, letting the door's barrier hold firm between you and the night. The house's warmth presses in on your skin in contrast to the damp chill that pulls at the edges of your consciousness. Behind the walls, the rain tightens its grip, pattering faster, washing away the silence as distant thunder rolls quietly in the clouds. Your fingers trace the worn wood of the doorframe, mindful of every texture, the splintered edge near the lock, the faint scent of moss that's gathered there. You think about the hours stretched thin in this wood and stone, about the tension in waiting for what might never come. The quiet here is not empty. It listens back, keeps its own kind of watch. Closing your eyes, you breathe in deep. The rain sounds like soft footsteps around the cabin's edges, moving just out of sight. The locked door feels like a threshold, not just between inside and out, but between certainty and something else, something whispered in the spaces you can't quite see. And so you wonder, how much of what waits outside ever really arrives, and how much simply waits with you, in the dark and the quiet, until someone dares to open the door and find out. Before we start, if you're new here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And where are you right now? What time is it? Because nights like this, those details matter. It's just past 4:30 in the morning. Outside, rain taps a slow, steady rhythm against the back porch window. The air is thick and cold, damp slipping into your skin like a quiet whisper. The earth beyond the cabin exhales with the scent of wet pine needles and moss, heavy under the mist that clings to the trees. You stand near the doorway leading to the porch, the wooden floorboards cool beneath your bare feet. The kitchen light behind you spills out in soft pools, casting long shadows over the hallway walls. The distant thunder mutters low and steady, a deep rumble rolling across the horizon like a warning, or maybe just the night's own voice. The steady drip of water from the gutter catches your ear, precise, isolated, reminding you of the stillness around. Your gaze falls on the back porch, where the rain-slick wood gleams faintly under the lone sconce's pale, yellow light. And then, there it is, a shovel leaning against the railing, twisted slightly as if recently placed. The metal blade's dark surface is streaked with mud, still fresh enough to feel the weight of something dug or disturbed. You've seen the shovel countless times since arriving, tucked away neatly behind a storage bench. But tonight, it seems different. Not forgotten, but waiting. A thin breeze pushes the fog, the mist swirling close and trailing its damp fingers across the porch floor. Your fingers curl deliberately around the doorframe, rough against your palm, anchoring you in the present. You step out, one careful foot after the other, the porch groaning softly beneath your weight. The smell of rain and earth rises stronger here, mingling with the faint metallic bite of the shovel's blade. You brush your thumb against its handle, sticky with moisture, a little chill vibrating through the wood. You look around, scanning the yard beyond, the tangled forest edge swallowed in smoky shadows, trees bowing beneath the rain. The gravel path, the only connection between this cabin and the deserted country road, gleams under the dim porch light. Still, no sign of movement, no footprints to betray passage recently taken. The rain continues its quiet hammering, masking sounds you might wish to hear or fear. As you lean against the door once more, the familiar comfort of warmth from inside radiates back toward you. You remember the locks, confirming them with practiced fingers before sliding the door closed with the softest click. The rain's voice rises, not drowning but blending with the night's subdued sounds, each drop a heartbeat echoing through wood and stone. You consider the shovel again, leaning there like a sentinel amid the fog and rain. What was it meant to be digging for? Is it just a tool left carelessly, or a silent message pressed into the wet earth? You wonder how often ordinary objects hold secrets, waiting only for the right moment to speak. And in the quiet watching of a rain-soaked night, what do you leave undiscovered? Because sometimes the waiting says more than anything uncovered. Before you settle in, if this is your first time listening, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And I'm wondering, where are you tonight? What time is it around you? Because the rhythm of the hours, and the space you're in shape, how every sound, every shadow feels. It's just past 4:50 in the morning, and rain taps lightly on the windows, a steady, persistent murmur that threads through the quiet cabin. The air is cool, sharp with the scent of damp earth and pine needles crushed underfoot, carried in on the slight breeze that slips under the eaves. You stand near the back door, the subtle glow from the hallway spilling out into the wood-framed porch. The floorboards beneath your bare feet feel slick where the rain has seeped in through gaps in the aging frame. There's a faint musty smell, the unmistakable mix of old wood and trapped moisture that settles deep inside these remote walls. The distant timbre of thunder rumbles low, heavy, but not quite storming, as if the sky itself is listening. Your eyes catch something barely perceptible on the muddy ground just beyond the dim porch light. A series of footprints pressed deep into the soft dirt by the garage. The marks are fresh, noticeably heavy prints, the edges blurred by the ongoing drizzle. You lean closer, noting the scattered debris of leaves crushed between them, splattered mud droplets clinging to the treads. The prints lead from the side gate toward the garage door, then stop abruptly, as if whoever left them vanished into thin air. A dry twig snaps somewhere past the shrubs. Your breath catches and leaves a faint mist near the back door glass. You reach slowly for the door handle, fingers brushing the cold metal before checking the deadbolt. You slide it over quietly, locked, secure. The wood beneath your palm hums faintly with dampness. You shift your weight, your steps measured, moving up the porch toward the kitchen window. Behind the glass, the warm light glints invitingly, spilling yellow warmth onto the wet scene outside. You take out your phone, screen lighting your palm in the night. A quick glance confirms no signal here. No help to call, no quick answers through the glow of technology. The quiet grows thick again, the rain's gentle tap filling empty spaces. You lean your head against the doorframe, feeling the weight of minutes stretching between shadows and light. The prints remain on the softened earth like a question pressed into the ground. You think about the different reasons a person or something might have left them here in the night, away from all roads, neighbors miles distant and asleep. The sensations in your skin, cool, wet, rough wood, faint tremors of silence, hold you as tightly as those marks in the mud. And so you wonder, when footprints appear where no one should be, and the world around you is both familiar and distant, what is it that we're really tracking? And what, beneath the rain and fog, waits quietly for us to follow? If you're here for the first time, don't forget to like and subscribe. And tell me, where are you listening right now? What time is it where you are? Because time and place shape everything you feel in these quiet, waiting hours. It's just past 5 in the morning, and rain taps steadily against the side window, a soft but insistent rhythm that blends with the hum of early morning silence. The cabin sits deep in the fog-heavy woods, the mist wrapping around the trees like a thick blanket, swallowing edges and blurring shapes into shadows. You're standing near the base of the narrow staircase that climbs to the attic, the air cooler here, heavier with dampness. It smells faintly of wood smoke lingering from last night, mixed with that musty earth scent that rises in old houses after long rain. Your fingers brush the handrail, the worn wood smooth and almost warm beneath your touch. You start the slow climb upward, each step creaking beneath your careful footfall, the sound echoing softly in the enclosed space. At the top, the attic door looms, a pale slab of scratched white paint, edges chipped and worn. You reach out and push it gently, the hinges sighing with reluctance. The attic smells older up here. Dust dances in the slanting beams of gray light filtering through a small window, cracked open just enough to let the clouded, damp air slip in. The floorboards creak with every tentative step you take. You pause by the window, squinting into the thick fog beyond. Then you see it, a faint glow from the attic window's slight curtain movement, a soft, flickering light as if someone lit a candle up here, or maybe a weak bulb struggling with the damp. Your heart ticks up a notch, steady but alert. The cabin's interior feels warmer behind you, the yellow kitchen light humming softly from far below. The rain continues its steady tapping rhythm on the roof, a vague drumbeat to your quiet vigil. Outside, somewhere beyond the veil of white fog, shapes melt and reform, as always, impossible to pin down. You listen carefully, hearing nothing but the occasional shudder of wind in the eaves, and the relentless patter of rain. Your fingers tighten on the windowsill, cold from the wet air slipping in through the cracked frame. The quiet stretches, a thin thread between safety and something just beyond reach. You look down the attic stairs, toward the glow of the living room's lamp, the familiar hum of the heater. No footsteps, no sound but that rain. You wonder what that light could mean, a forgotten bulb, a trick of fog and shadow, or something waiting quietly in the space between night and day. You feel the tug of unease and comfort entwined. How often do the places we think we know hold secrets in plain sight, revealed only when the world is wrapped in wet silence and a single light flickers in the dark? And in the stillness, you ask yourself, when a light burns alone in a fogged window, who is it meant to guide, and who watches back? Before we begin, if you're new here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. And I'm curious, where are you listening right now? What time is it on your clock? Because nights like this, every detail shapes the atmosphere, the shift in the air. It's just past 6 in the morning, and the rain still falls in soft, constant drizzles, tapping lightly against the cabin's wooden siding. Outside, the fog lingers thick and low, the forest beyond blurred into shades of gray and shadow. You're standing in the small sitting room of this rented cabin, an Airbnb deep in the wilderness far from the nearest town, where the world feels washed out and slower. There's a faint smell of wet leaves and old wood pressing through the windows, mixed with the clean scent of brewed coffee still warm in the mug on the table. You feel the small chill of dampness sliding down your skin as the room hums quietly around you, the soft buzz of the heater, the distant tapping of rain on glass. As you glance toward the back of the cabin, something catches your eye, the back door, slightly ajar. Not fully open, but just enough to reveal the gathering gray of morning and the slick wooden steps beyond, glistening with rain. The sight feels off, not quite right. You don't remember leaving it like that. Your heart quickens, steady but alert. You know you locked it earlier, snapping the deadbolt into place. The tight, familiar click still fresh in your mind. You move toward the door, each step making the old floorboards sigh beneath your weight. You reach out and run your fingers along the cold frame, feeling the dampness that clings just beneath the paint. You pause, listening closely. Outside, the rain hums steady, but beneath it, you catch a soft rustle, like something brushing against the porch railing, or a slow scrape against the gravel driveway just beyond the yard. The air smells of wet earth and resin-heavy pine, thick and swelling in the cool morning. You check your phone where you left it on the kitchen counter. The screen is dark, still no signal despite this early hour. That distance, that quiet, brings its own weight. You slip the deadbolt back into place, hearing the lock's sharp sound steady and reassuring. Your hand lingers on the knob. The door swings closed with a muted creak. Outside, the fog hangs heavy, the world narrowed to a few blurred shapes, branches bending in the wet, the gutter's steady drip of water falling like a distant metronome. The room's warmth touches your skin again, a barrier against the cold elsewhere's just outside. But you wonder how a door left open, even a crack, changes the space between inside and out. How easily the boundary thins when the rain reaches in, carrying whispers through the fog to the edges of the woods. You think about the quiet that fills these moments, the kind that isn't empty but watching, waiting. And you ask yourself, when the door's left open for just a moment, who steps inside with the shadows, and who stays watching just beyond the light?